Hey everybody, good Friday morning to you, and I hope everybody's having a great morning so far. This is my new YouTube channel called North Central Weather Center, and this channel will be focusing on the northern central plains, the Midwest, the Great Lakes, and parts of the Ohio Valley. And in this forecast, we'll be talking about a building heat wave across the north central United States into next week, with storm chances increasing as we get later into next week, including the potential for some heavy rainfall as well. So looking here at the weather pattern today, we do have the northeastern periphery of that ridge across our central regions here from the central Dakotas down through the Illinois Valley and the Ohio Valley as of today. But as we go through this weekend, that ridge will begin to retrograde further back to the west. So the northern and northeastern periphery of that ridge will still be across our central zones from the central Dakotas down through the Missouri Valley and the lower Ohio River Valley as we go into Saturday and Sunday this weekend. So what does this mean for our temperatures? Well, it'll be cooler across our easternmost regions, but our western areas will be warmer as it is closer to the northeastern periphery of that ridge of high pressure. So temperatures out here will be well into the 80s, if not touching the 90-degree mark, especially around Rapid City as we go through this afternoon. But further east across Milwaukee, Chicago, Indianapolis, and Detroit, temperatures will be hard pressed to get much above 80 degrees. I expect lower 80s and comfortable humidity for you guys across those areas as we go into this afternoon. But as we go into early this weekend on Saturday, that ridge will begin to nudge its way further east, and the northeastern periphery will begin to build across our western areas. So to the Dakotas down to Nebraska and Kansas, temperatures will be pushing well into the 90s. In fact, middle 90s will be likely from Rapid City all the way south to Lincoln, Nebraska, and even Topeka, Kansas, as we go into Saturday. Still comfortable and cooler across the eastern areas, across the Great Lakes, parts of the Midwest and Ohio Valley, with temperatures in the middle to upper 70s on Saturday. Then as we go into Sunday, that heat will start to flex its muscles more across our western regions, again, across the Great Plains, the Dakotas, down through Nebraska and Kansas, with more 90s starting to build into Minnesota, Iowa, and Missouri. And yeah, triple-digit heat will be possible across Rapid City all the way down towards portions of North Platte, Lincoln, maybe even near Omaha, getting close to 100 degrees on Sunday and well into the 90s for Kansas City. So starting to flex its muscles as we go later on into this weekend. But for precipitation trends for today, isolated thunderstorm or two cannot be ruled out, especially up here into the eastern Dakotas, northern Minnesota, or parts of Wisconsin. A couple thunderstorms are also possible into western and central Nebraska as we go through today. Then into Saturday, the high pressure starts to work in. I can't rule out a stray shower or storm, a 20 to 30% chance of a shower or storm in the afternoon, peak daytime heating at best across the Arrowhead of Minnesota or down here around Omaha and Kansas City. Otherwise, many of us will be dry with just mixed clouds and sunshine on Saturday. And then into Sunday, a couple areas of showers and storms from Detroit down through Indianapolis and St. Louis. A lot of dry hours across this region, but we cannot rule out a couple of showers and storms during that period. But our far western areas will be dry as that warm front, with the flexing of that ridge, will be pushing further to the north and east, and it will really flex its muscles on Sunday with triple-digit heat here once that warm front does move through. And overall, the total rainfall accumulation today and through the weekend, so Saturday into Sunday, will be a tenth of an inch at best across portions of the upper Midwest here into the central plains. So areas from the Arrowhead of Minnesota down through portions of eastern Nebraska, western Iowa, and northeast Kansas could be seeing some shower and storm activity centered around the Minneapolis-St. Paul region, Omaha, getting down into Kansas City and Topeka here. There could be a stray shower or storm getting through this weekend, but many dry areas across portions of the north central United States going into this weekend. So get outdoors and do any outdoor activities as you can. And then early next week, it does look like the heat begins to flex its muscles even further, as the northern periphery of that ridge will build north of the international border into Canada. And by later next week, that starts to build further to the northeast across portions of the Great Lakes region. So we'll really start to heat up later next week here And the Climate Prediction Center does support that idea with well above average temperatures across the north central states from Wednesday, the 26th of July through Sunday, July 30th, and probably even Monday, July 31st to end the month as well. And this is the warmest time of year, folks. So we're going to start to see some very hot temperatures, especially when the Climate Prediction Center does have a very likely category for above average temperatures into this region for the warmest time of year. So looking at early next week, it does look like we cool down and really, cool down back to the middle 90s. So if we're in the hundreds on Sunday, we're only cooling back to the middle 90s early next week, say Monday, Tuesday time frame, but we see more of the triple digits starting to build in here into Kansas and Nebraska at times. And then as we go into later next week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday time frame, and probably into next weekend, we start to see more of that heat building across portions of the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, and the Midwest, including Chicago, Milwaukee, Green Bay, Indianapolis, Detroit, Toledo, those areas. We'll start to see more upper 90s to near triple digit heat across that region. And then we have more of some active weather moving in across the Dakotas and northern Minnesota as we go into later next week and especially into next weekend. So looking at the precipitation, the Climate Prediction Center does focus it across our northernmost regions here, from the Dakotas eastward to Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan, with slightly above average precipitation, with more of a nod to below normal precipitation here across the southern Nebraskan regions here, getting into Kansas, Missouri, and portions of the lower Ohio River Valley as we go, especially later on into next week and next weekend. So what does this mean overall? Well, the upper level jet stream, we have a shortwave trough across portions of southwestern Canada, and that will move over top of that ridge through the early and middle portion of next week. But by the time we arrive into that Wednesday, Thursday, and even Friday time frame, we'll see that shortwave move across the southern Canadian provinces, but be just across our northernmost regions for some precipitation chances to be introduced. Our southern areas will be influenced by that ridge, so we're seeing a lot of sinking air, lots of sunshine and heat. So the rain chances will be slim to none across Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, and Missouri here and further to the east. But it does look like early next week we do start to see more dew points rising here into the 60s, perhaps maybe upper 60s across the upper Midwest and the northern plains here. And then maybe a little bit of a frontal boundary trying to set up later next week across the Great Lakes region and into the central plains. This could be a focal point for lift and thunderstorm activity later next week. So early next week, Monday, Tuesday time frame, isolated coverage of showers and storms will be possible across especially northern Minnesota and the eastern Dakotas. Further south from there, the influence of the ridge is going to be too strong for any significant storm activity. But later next week, we may start to see that change as the northern periphery of that ridge begins to break down across South Dakota, Nebraska, and western Iowa, and more isolated to widely scattered thunderstorms will be possible here. We do have to watch the potential for heavy rain and severe weather with any thunderstorms that occur here. Because of the heat building to the south, we have a strong reservoir of moisture and instability, and we could be feeding off that with a stronger jet stream for some damaging winds and hail across portions of this region. We will be updating that as well. But looking here at the precipitation trends next week, Monday through Friday, it looks like a medium probability across eastern North Dakota, northern Minnesota, and up here into the upper Great Lakes region, into northern Wisconsin and the western UP of Michigan, with more of a low probability of precipitation back down into South Dakota, southern Minnesota, as far south and east here as maybe the Chicagoland area, Indianapolis, and Detroit as we go through the next week. But anywhere further south from there, the ridge is going to be too strong, lots of sinking air. It's going to be hard pressed to see any thunderstorms as we go into next week. That could change beyond Friday here, so we'll continue to watch this, and I will be updating this map as we go throughout next week with more of my updates. Well, if you like the content so far across the north central United States with the weather forecast, be sure to subscribe to the channel down below. I appreciate all the new subscribers already. We're already to 130 subscribers, so thank you all for all the support already. Also, be sure to like the video down below if you like today's weather forecast. It helps to get all this information to more and more people. And follow me on Twitter. The link is down below the description of the video. For additional weather forecast updates on Twitter, get the link there at hweather420 and follow me on Twitter. I appreciate that. I do update on that platform fairly frequently as well. Otherwise, thank you all for watching today's weather forecast, and I hope you have a great Friday and a great rest of your weekend.